A forgotten artifact lies in pieces on a planet far from Earth. Few know it exists except those who took it back and those whose ancestors created it. 4 young people are thrown into a race against emissaries of the gods to find its pieces. Mistrust, greed, and magic are tangled in an endless web. What will the fate be of the universe once it is found and reassembled? Get Scepter of the Gods, The Rod of Truth now on Amazon, and get wrapped up in the saga that will not let you go.
Good morning and welcome to the Motivational Devotional, where we are merging motivation and spirituality to create a daily dose of confident positivity. I hope that this morning's podcast will help you to be more spiritually and positively motivated so that you can transform your day. Good morning and thank you for joining me today at the Motivational Devotional. I am Mark the Writer, and today is the 19th episode of our series, 50 Ways to Love Your Soul. I hope you've been able to follow along with this series and are finding it helpful in getting your new year going in the direction of your lifelong goals. If you know anyone who could use some encouragement in setting goals, then please share this podcast or the blog version from motivational-devotional.com. Yesterday, we talked about loving the outdoors, and so today we kind of continue that by talking about loving the birds. But as you might guess, there are physical birds and there are spiritual birds. Let's talk about the physical ones first. One of my favorite spaces is my Florida room. Like most of them, it used to be a patio and was enclosed with 2 walls almost entirely made of windows. I have a 15-foot wide panoramic view of my backyard and the 2 bird feeding areas that are within a few steps of those windows. Even in the cold, like this weekend, when high temperatures are below 20 degrees, birds still flit about looking for food. I make sure they stay fed, and they grace me with the spiritual experience of watching them come and go. Functionally, feeding birds even in winter is an ecological responsibility that all of us should take seriously. They have few places to get food, since all the berries are gone and just about everything is covered by snow or is frozen. We need to remember that wild birds are bug controlled, and the more we keep them alive, the more they will help control insects in the spring and summer. It is a symbiotic relationship. So if you needed a reason beyond it just being a good thing to feed hungry creatures, there you go. So for me, in this physical sense, feeding the birds is something that I do for those reasons, but it's also because as I watch them, even though they are outside and I am inside, it is a grounding experience for me. I watch the different species coming and going. I watch chipmunks scurry in, grab the bigger seeds, and scurry off to wherever their burrows are. I watch squirrels come in and make a mess of the seed that I spread on a concrete bench, and then watch the birds swoop in to drive them off. It's a scene that can't be written and directed by anyone other than the universe, and it plays out in front of me while I drink my morning coffee. It's always on the same channel, but never a rerun, and there are no commercials. It's my favorite feel-good show. So then there are the spiritual birds. What would those be? Well, let's think about what physical birds are like. Not only do they fly, but they can sometimes be pests, and I know some people who actively hate birds and do anything possible to drive them away. Birds eat worms, bugs, berries, and seeds, meaning that they help balance out the ecosystem. They are prey to bigger birds as well as cats. Birds are also food for humans. Let's see, what else do they do? Oh, yes, they provide most of the musical backdrop to the great outdoors. So if you are rather new to life as a spiritual journey, this may take a little doing to wrap your head around this. Please bear in mind that when I say spiritual journey, I don't just mean going to church and memorizing scripture and learning some of the fundamentals of any religious practice. Those are beginning things. But life as a spiritual journey is about peeling away the self layer by layer as we get into nitty-gritty stuff on the inside, because each of us has at our core not only the ugly stuff that we try to ignore, but we also have at our core the brilliant spiritual light of the source, the image of God, the power of the universe. The spiritual journey is about gradually letting that stuff at the core become who and what we are manifesting, and for most of us, it takes a lifetime to really get to that. So be patient in considering and reflecting on this. Our spiritual nature can fly, just seemingly be effortlessly lifted up by the breeze of life, and it also needs to be fed. Our spiritual nature doesn't need to be fed seeds and nuts, but it needs nurtured by connection with the divine, as well as with your conscious mind. Your spiritual nature needs to be acknowledged that not only does it exist, but that it is an important part of yourself. I think also that the energy that becomes a thought exists spiritually before it becomes conscious ideas. And so spiritual birds are like those thoughts in that we have spiritual energy of different species, some of it beautiful like cardinals and finches, and some of it plainer like sparrows. These spiritual birds also balance out the ecology of the body-mind-spirit dynamic. Not that I am saying that we have spiritual bugs and worms and such, because we don't have to carry this that far, but the spiritual energy that turns into our ideas, inspiration, and thoughts that we then pursue with relentless intent provides the healthy balance of a rich, thriving spirit, feeding our minds with positive thinking that turns into positive ways we care for our bodies. That spiritual energy that we might look at as being spiritual birds also provides the musical background to life in general. It's not like music we can turn up on a radio, but it's what poets have called the song of life. Each individual species of spiritual bird within you has a different song. Just like a beautiful morning can provide the experience of hundreds of birds singing outside, the healthier a person's spirit is from a well-cultivated spiritual journey, the more the spiritual energy within voices a beautiful backdrop of hundreds of possibilities. Life is good, and if you physically love the birds with actual birdseed and love your spiritual birds by actively cultivating a spiritual journey, you will surely know that all of creation is conspiring in your favor. Trust that the universe always has your back. David Attenborough said, "Everyone likes birds. What wild creature is more accessible to our eyes and ears, as close to us and everyone in the world, as universal as a bird?" Thank you for taking the time to listen today. Please help keep this podcast going by following the Motivational Devotional Facebook page, following @Threefold-Way Radio on Twitter, and sharing the written format of today's message from motivational-devotional.com on your social media. I am deeply grateful for your support, and thank you for letting Motivational Devotional be part of your journey. Peace out. See you tomorrow. Motivational Devotional is a production of Threefold Way Radio, LLC.